And guys, you're back with us on the C Morning Show right here on C Today. And now, talking about sex to their kids might be uncomfortable for most of parents, but today it might be necessary to teach our kids about sexual harassment and also the kind of inappropriate behavior that has become a staple of the news lately.
News about acts of sexual harassment committed against minors is on the rise lately. One of the most horrible cases involves the leader of an Islamic boarding school who sexually assaulted 21 of his students, aged 13 to 17 years old. And horrifyingly, some of his victims have given birth twice. This must be very upsetting for all of us. And now it is time for parents to protect their kids and provide them with a measure of sexual education to prevent similar cases from happening.
That's true, Diarza. And we also need to support victims of sexual harassment and encourage them to be brave enough to speak up, so the perpetrators of such heinous acts can be rightly punished in the court of the law. Now, to talk more about sexual education and also how to encourage victims to actually just speak up, we are now connected with child psychologist Farras Muhdiar. Good morning, Farras.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, Farras, it's very nice to have you on our show early in the morning. Thank you for your time. Now, we're just going to jump into our question, Farras. It seems that news of, sexual harassment against minors have been on the rise lately. Now, what, in your point of view, what do you think is the main reason behind the sexual harassment itself?
Yeah, actually, motives behind rape vary. So it can be different from one perpetrator to another. But research shows that rapists have some common characteristics. They have a lack of empathy, narcissism, and then they have feelings of hostility towards women. And some of them actually have developmental trauma and relationship issues with their parental figure. So it's also related to their family situation. So that's what I can tell you. But I cannot tell any specific reason because one perpetrator and another might have different reasons behind the action.
Well, but Farras, we've talked about the perpetrators, but how should parents defend their kids? How should they protect them?
Okay. First of all, every parent should give their child sexuality education from early, from before they can speak. At least by telling them the right name for their private part. It's very important, so that when they feel uncomfortable about that specific part, or when some people touches them, they can tell the parents exactly what's going on without giving any mask to it and making people don't really understand what's going on. So that's a very basic and important thing that should be taught to the children. The right name for the private parts, and then which part can be touched and can be seen by others, which part can be seen and touched only by the parents or the caregiver, and which part is private and cannot be touched by anyone, especially when the child doesn't feel like doing it. Okay. And also they cannot also touch the other people's private parts as well, because some perpetrators don't touch the child's private parts, but ask the children to touch theirs. So it's also as important.
Okay. Now, I'm really curious, how can actually parents teach about their kids, about sex itself? Because, here in Indonesia, it's a little bit taboo to talk about that between, parents and kids. But in my point of view, it is something that is very important that we need to acknowledge our children about this, because it's for their own safety.
Yeah. Oftentimes when parents heard about sex education, all they think about is teach their child how to have sex, and that's not it. That's not all of it. It also teaches the child about their own body, their own body parts, and then how to communicate with others, and then about their right to say no to anything that they feel uncomfortable to do. So it's also about that, and also about about puberty, about the biological aspects of of the sex. So it's not really something that's all terrifying to do. But I understand that some parents might be hesitant to do it because the way of they were raised, they never talk about that stuff with their parents. So it just sounds so terrifying to do it with their own children. So
Right.
it's to do that. First of all, we have to read as much as possible, and just start by telling them all the scientific and biological aspects of the reproductive system. It's not that terrifying to do that. When we think of it as it's just biology. We all have it. We all can use it. So it's just telling them how to use their private parts, just like how we tell them to use their own hands, their own eyes. It's just the same thing. And then start by answering children's questions with honesty, because I think a lot of children have a lot of questions.
Yes.
My own son, he's only 2.5 years old, and he already asked me what's period, what's my he saw my pad and asked what it is, and we ended up talking about period. So it's something that should be talked about in our daily basis. It's not something that we should talk about just in one sitting. All of it, we tell them about stuff, but do it in small talks, little by little. We start by what's on our child's mind, what he's or she's interested about,
Right.
what their questions are about, and answer them based on facts and with honesty.
Okay, that's very good, Faarras. But I'm really curious about if you did mention that we as a parent, we actually need to talk to our children, but sometimes again it's taboo for some parents, and because it is taboo for some of parents, they actually just they're actually hoping for the school to educate the their children about this matter of talking about sexual news. Now, what is your point of view of that? Giving the authority for the school to talk about that to the children, and it is a common thing, or not, for schools to actually to do so, to talk about that here in Indonesia?
Yeah, I know that some schools have a specific program for students reaching puberty to talk about sexuality education, but most of them only talk about the biological aspect. They don't tell their child about the relation between them and their friends or their boyfriends, girlfriends, and that they have the right to say no to anyone. It's a very important thing to talk about, but I think it's been left out. People only be focused on teaching them about the puberty part.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to sexuality education, it's very related to our values. Different families might have different values and different things to talk to the children to. So it's important that we parents do it by ourselves first, and then we find out if the school has a program that's related to our values. So it doesn't contradict with each other, but it should start with us, because we have our own family values that might be different from our friends' values.
But Farras, I want to go back to the recent case that we've seen on the news with the headmaster of the school that raped many of his school children or students. Why are some victims too afraid to speak up or to tell their parents that what they've been experiencing?
Okay, so from my experience, there are a few reasons why some victims don't want to tell the story. First of all, because most of the perpetrators are someone close to the children.
Right.
It can be someone blood related or someone well respected in the community, which is the case for this case. So they might feel that people wouldn't believe them, or maybe they have tried to tell someone, but they just say it's not possible, and they feel like, okay, so I shouldn't talk about this. I should just keep it to ourselves, and then to myself. And then the second reason is that they actually don't understand that what happened to them is wrong, especially when it's children underage. They might feel that it's normal because it's asked trusted adults, or they think they were just asking them to play something. It's just part of the play, and then or they might feel that it's their fault. I have a part on this situation. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have worn this clothes. I shouldn't have went there. I shouldn't feel any sensation when it happened. So they feel guilty, so they don't want to share the story to others.
Right, right. But actually, how can we, as outsiders, maybe not just outsiders, or maybe the family can actually help them to speak up and get justice for it?
First of all, don't rush them. Just be there for them. Just listen to their story empathetically. Show them that we really care for them. We don't really care for the story. Because sometimes when people ask, they just want to know. They don't really have any genuine interest for the child. So show them that we care about them genuinely. And we always, the principle when we talk about when we talk to the victim is that we have to trust the victim always, and that we cannot ask them, we cannot tell them that they're wrong. We cannot blame them. So we just have to listen to the story empathetically. And then we give them any option. Do you want to tell? Who do you want to tell? Do you want to proceed it to like legal measure? Do you want to see a doctor? Do you want to see a therapist? So give them options. Just don't decide it for ourselves, because it's not our story to tell.
Yes.
We have also to prepare them about the consequences. When we bring this up to the police, what's going to happen? Because the victim might have the perpetrator again. They might feel traumatized, but when they're in court, they might have to face the perpetrator again, and then they might have to tell the story over and over again to strangers, the police, doctors, the media. So it might feel uncomfortable for them. So we really have to prepare them and tell them about the consequences. But we have to remind them that if we bring this up, the perpetrator might be locked up, and you will be a lot more safe when he's away.
Okay, but Farah, mentally, are there any professional help that victims can access to help them recover?
Yeah, my suggestion would be to see a psychologist, of course, if we have some trauma programs for them, which will be suited according to the child's age, cognitive abilities, and their level of trauma. But I think what's important is not only the therapy, but also what people are around them doing. So families and friends' role are very important. They have to be there for the children, calm them down, and making them go back to their own routine. They need to have a routine. So it's better if they do something every day that can help them forget what happened to them. And then just be there, don't blame them, and tell them repeatedly that it's not their fault, it's not your fault. It's always the perpetrator's fault.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a question about, from your point of view, Farras, as a psychologist, do you think that, I'm sure that you've handled lots of cases similar to this one. How do you think about, the juggle between you as a therapist and also the law here in Indonesia regarding to this matter? Is it a win-win solution, or is it it's more hard?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because as we all know, not every lawmaker know how to deal with the victim even.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about the legal system, how to deal with the victim, what not to ask them. I often heard that story where the victim were asked really profound questions on court, such as like the judge are trying to blame the victim. I know that the purpose is to figure out whether the perpetrator is really wrong or not.
Right.
I think it's their job, but this is a very sensitive case, especially when it's underage children. So I think everyone dealing with sexual assault victim should know what to do, what to say, what to ask, and what not to say, not to harm them further.
Okay.
But Farras, are there any more tips for parents to protect their children, like maybe you want the kids to have like self-defense lessons or even martial arts, to prepare further them.
That's a good idea.
Other than the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good idea to just provide them with something to fight.
Yeah.
And I think the basic thing that we need to tell our children is that there are some safe and unsafe tasks, and just because that another person looks very trusted and respected, doesn't mean that they can do anything that we might not feel uncomfortable to do. So we have to tell our children that it's okay to say no to anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. And if someone's still insist on doing that, we have to do this thing. The first, we have to say no, or shout, or kick them, or bite them.
Yes.
My mother told me, I think when I was a child, to just kick the bad guy,
Right.
and then go. So no, go tell. Say no, and then run away and tell someone that you trust.
Oh,
And then,
no, go tell.
other
That's
thing
good.
Yep. Other thing that we need to teach our children is that there is no secrets in the family. Surprises are okay, but if someone tell them that this is a secret, don't tell it to your parents, it might be a bad thing to keep.
Yes.
So openness in the family should be maintained. We have to learn from our children are still early to listen to them, to their story, refrain ourselves from, telling them what to do only like a minute after they started telling the story. So pause and listen to them first, and make them feel safe to
Right.
tell us and ask about anything to us.
Right, okay. But I as a parent, I'm on board to what Farah, as you just mentioned, about, there's no secrets in the families, that we need to listen to our children. Now, getting back to our topic, let's talk about therapy, Farah. Is there a therapy for sexual harassment victims?
Yes, of course. But there are some therapy, but we cannot say that it's going to succeed 100%.
Yes.
It's all based on the children's support system, etc. But yeah, there are some therapy. Even for children who's really, really young, there is a play-based therapy that can address the trauma.
Oh, okay, interesting. Now, how can we actually prevent, children, kids, and also teenagers in this matter, from becoming victims of sexual harassment? Because, when we're talking about kids, like below 7 or below 8, they are not like teenagers, how they think and act, right? But because teenagers they can actually defend themselves, and they can actually talk even more. But for kids, it's a little bit hard.
Yeah, for younger kids,
Yes.
we have to tell them about the sex education, but we have to also protect their environment. So it's important for the parents to know who the children are playing with, where are they, how about the school situation, how is the teacher treating them, and where are they going, what are they watching even. The parents should know about that, and should tell the children about what's good to see, what's good to do and not, because at an early age, they are not really fully capable of doing that on their own. So the parents still need to be very, very involved in the children's lives.
Yes, I do agree with that. Farras, one more question. As a parent here, as a mother talking to you, what is your thoughts about, putting our kids into a school taught by different gender of teachers? So do you agree on that or not?
Yeah, I think it's based. It's not about the gender, because we also see there are also some perpetrators who target the victims the same gender as them. It's also very often that we heard about that. So it's not about the gender. It's about the boundaries, what they do with our children. So rather than focusing on who teach them, a guy or a woman, it's more important to tell our children that there are some unsafe touch that no one can do it. Nobody can do that unsafe touch. So it's very important to teach about that. Which part can be seen, which part cannot be seen but by anyone, which touch are safe and which touch is never safe to do or to receive.
Right.
Righty.
Right, noted. So actually it's not about the gender, so it's just about the boundaries itself.
Boundaries.
Well, okay, now we know even more.
Thank you so much, Faarras, for the insightful talk. We learned a lot today.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Stay
having me.
healthy,
Thank you.
stay safe. Bye now.
Bye-bye.